Welcome, government. This will be the 6 purposes of government today. It's going to be our first attempt at flipping our classroom. I hope this was easy for you to find. If you did have any difficulties, apparently you got here. So let me know if there's anything I can do to make the process easier in the future. I would like to start out by telling you that you do need to take notes. So please take notes as you view, listen to, and go through this screencast. Please also jot down any questions that you might have, as we will surely be discussing those tomorrow in class. And also, feel free to stop and play back, replay as many times as you need to any information that you feel you didn't get or you didn't understand. And also, if you have any suggestions for how I can change this or maybe add a little spice to it for you, please let me know and we will see what we can do. Let's get started. Our first topic, we're going to make it short and sweet, is the 6 purposes of government. Now, our government, when we first set out, the forefathers were very smart in that they decided to let the people know what government's role was going to be, since Americans were very skeptical of their former governments. So they came up with 6 purposes, and they answer the question, what does our government do? Or what should our government do? These 6 purposes can be found in the preamble to the Constitution, which basically means the introduction to the Constitution. And again, it outlines those 6 purposes. So the Constitution begins, we the people. 3 very important words, emphasizing we the people, or at least those representing the people of the United States. And after we the people, it goes on to list those 6 purposes of government. We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, is our first purpose of government. What does it mean to form a more perfect union? A simple way to think about it is to bind the states and their citizens more closely together. So at the outset we had 13 very individual, very divided, very distinct states, and we needed to bring them together so that they could function better. An example of this would be establishing a common currency. The 13 states originally had 13 independent currencies, and therefore it was very difficult to trade between the states, and it was also one more reminder that we are 13 separate states. We are not so united. So by establishing a common currency, the dollar, they were able to trade more easily, but they were also able to view themselves as an American people with an American currency. Moving on to our second purpose of government, we have established justice. To establish justice is a very hard concept to understand or to define. But the best way I could do it was to say, making the law reasonable, fair, and impartial. So the government's second purpose is to make sure that the law is reasonable and fair for all of the citizens. One example of this would be the right to vote. Originally, not everyone was guaranteed the right to vote. In fact, it was mostly just wealthy white men who were able to vote in the early years. Now, after the Civil War, we got the 15th Amendment, which guaranteed black men the right to vote. And it wasn't until 1919 that we got the 19th Amendment, in which women were allowed to vote. But through both of these amendments, the government established justice and made it fair for all groups of citizens. Moving on to our third purpose of government, we have ensure domestic tranquility. If you break that down, to ensure means to guarantee, domestic means the home or at home, and tranquility means peace. So it means to guarantee peace at home, or keeping the order and peace at home. One example of this would be the presence of the police in our neighborhoods. Police are there to guarantee that laws are followed and that no one's rights or life is put in danger. A third purpose of government is to provide for the common defense. Now this one is pretty straightforward. It means protecting the country from foreign threats. So most often people tend to think of the military when they think of providing for the common defense. My example here, as you can see in the picture, is President Obama signing a nuclear arms treaty, and in this he is pledging to reduce the number of nuclear weapons we have, as well as other leaders are, and through this he is defending us from these foreign nuclear threats. Moving on to our next topic, promote the general welfare. That's the fourth purpose of government we'll discuss. Welfare is like the well-being of the citizens, and the government's promoting it, so they're trying to increase it, guarantee it. So I simply stated that the government ensures a higher quality of life or a higher standard of living for its citizens. And the government does this by providing schools, roadways, pollution standards, and other services like Medicare, Social Security. But my chief example here is the schools. Governments provide schools and education to, again, improve the quality of life for all citizens. Moving on to our fifth purpose of government. This purpose is to secure the blessings of liberty. When you hear blessings of liberty, think of your guarantees of rights and freedoms. Okay, so liberty is like a freedom or a right that you might have. And one of the classic examples here is the First Amendment protects the right to freedom of speech, along with press, religion, petition, and assembly. But speech is the big one, and everyone remembers. And so here you have a famous Norman Rockwell image of the freedom of speech, where a man is at what looks to be a town hall meeting, and he is standing up and speaking his mind and being heard. And so this is one of the blessings of liberty. This is one of the freedoms that we believe all men and women share. And again, it is the purpose of government to secure them, to protect their rights. That wraps up our purposes of government. Again, went through them kind of quickly, so if you had any difficulty following along with me, please pause it or go back and play it back to yourself again. Take all the time that you need. Again, this is intended to go at your own pace and make more learning productive. I end with this slide, which follows the six purposes of government. So again, if you were to read the introduction or the preamble to the Constitution, it would say, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity," is how it ends, or almost ends, "to ourselves and our posterity." What this means to ourselves is obviously us, right here, right now, and our posterity. So if you think of your posterior, that's like what's behind you, okay? So that would be what will come after us, or our future generations. So to ourselves and our posterity simply means now and for future generations. So these rights, these guarantees that the government is protecting are not only being protected now, but in the future. And I think it is very important to understand that to maintain our rights and freedoms, we must practice what Thomas Jefferson called eternal vigilance. We must always be alert and aware. for anyone or anything that's trying to take away our rights or limit those blessings of liberty that have been bestowed upon us. So there you have it. You have our 6 purposes of government. Again, if you had any difficulty following along, please play them back. Take your time, write down any notes, any questions, any suggestions you have. I will be glad to hear about all 3 of those things. And tomorrow in class, we will be putting the purposes together and completing a couple activities. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow. Good night.